Welcome to Shadow Empire Academy. Today you will learn how to supply your units using your logistical network. We'll discuss also supply bases, track stations, action points, track points, and how to build proper infrastructure to let your trucks deliver ammo and food to your units. I am sure you already know that supplies are sent from SHQ to units. So SHQ is a special unit that has its own stock of resources, where some of them are requested by units as a supply. In this case, food, fuel, ammo, sometimes energy. Those are supplies as a part of resources inside our SHQ that can be sent to any units in form of supplies. But not only SHQ contain its own stock of resources, also any unit has, if we go here to the supply button, has its own stock of supplies. So in this case, our militia unit can store 12 food and 72 ammo. You can see that the current number of food is lower than the maximum that they can store, so they have requested the missing 6 food from SHQ. If our supply network is working well, they should receive that amount next turn from SHQ. But also, each of our zones, if we click to Items tab, has their own stock of resources. So in this zone, we have 42 food. My other zone also have different amount of food in the stock. Also they have fuel. But by default, the zones do not send resources directly to units, but all transportation need to be done by SHQ. In Shadow Empire, to send supplies, we need something called logistical points. Logistical points are an abstraction for different transportation methods, like trucks, trains, or airplanes. In our case, if we go to Assets, we can see that we have one asset that can provide us some logistical points, which means that we have 400 logistical points of truck movement type that can be used on roads to transfer resources to different units or different track stations. So it's important to understand that we are talking here about logistical points with a type of track. To see our logistical points on our map, we need to go to Map Layers and click the Initial Points button. Now you can see that on our road there are gray numbers representing the amount of logistical points that were available at start of the turn. Those points are on the road only because we are talking about track points. And each number represents how many resources can be sent through this hex. If we hide our units using Hide Units button in Map Layers section, it will be easier to notice that we have here gray number representing how many points we generated inside this hex. In the south direction, we send 224 points, and in the northeast, we send 175. The sum of those two give us 400. So all generated logistical points were sent in two directions, but not splitted by half. Here we can see a gray rectangle with number 12. It means that on this hex somebody requested 12 logistical points. And the green bar gives us information that the request was done by military units. So our two militia units, if we click on them and check that this unit requested 6 food, this unit requested 6 food, so we have 12 food requested. And the weight of food is 1, so we need 12 logistical points to deliver food for those 2 units. That's why the game created here the pull point marker. It means that we are requesting 12 logistical points to this hex. Also, here we can see that there are 63 points requested for this hex from green bar, which means some unit, this militia unit, and the red bar over this rectangle means that the other part of logistical points requested are from the industry in this hex. We can see that here we have scavenging community. So the scavenging community, if we click on it, needs 50 logistical points to be operable, to be able to work. So 50 was requested by the asset, by the scavenging asset, and this unit requested 6 food. So it's not enough because we have 56. Here you can see that there is another unit that requested 8 resources, which means another 8 logistical points. Usually the resources have weight of 1, but in case of replacements it's much heavy depending on the unit size. To see it even better how it works, we can hide our units, go to the map order modes and select traffic signs mode. Now we can see we are in the mode where we can check distribution of logistical points in any hex. So if I click in our zone center twice, now I have very detailed information what is happening with logistical points. So here we can see that 400 is generated here inside this hex, and we have 2 routes in 2 directions. And here we have everything described. So 400 logistical points using track movement have been generated in hex. This is important for later. Game noticed that our militia created a pull point to request 12 food. So the game noticed that there's somebody requesting 12 logistical points and we need to send it. Then the game noticed that our industry and the 2 other militia units are requesting 61 points in one hex on the south. So the game is sending 12 logistical points using tracks to anybody who requested that amount, and sent 61 to south because somebody requested. Still, we are talking here about sending logistical points. So the game don't tell us exactly what is transported using that logistical points, but we know that here somebody requested food. But for the game, the logistical points are important, not what is transferred. Only the weight of what is transferred and the logistical points is important for the game. And the rest of remaining points is distributed equally to both directions. As we said, logistical points are assigned to each hex of the road, so we can check any hex using the traffic signs option to see what is coming to the hex and what is going out from the hex. Still, we see that our 12 trucks with food coming from this road on the south west and going, and we send the same 12 trucks with food to the southeast, and also the empty trucks are here. So we understand how resources can be transferred using the logistical points to the points where they are requested. But how far we can transfer our resources? Because if you can see, we see number 175 on most of the hexes, but here we see 140. So what happened? If we go to the one hex before this downgrade of logistical points, and we still are in science mode, so let's click on this hex, we can see that 12 track points received, but only 10 was sent to the hex where is our militia. So what happened? We lost 2 tracks. And now we learn about action points. So the second number means how many action points we have in our track station or private asset providing action points. And the first number means how many action points we used. So if we will use more than we have in our asset, then we will have a penalty of applied to the number of tracks that we can send the next hex. Same here, 163 tracks were delivered from this side, but only 130 could leave this hex because the same situation. We spent already 10 points more than our maximum. So we should treat action points as the second number as a range of our optimal range of our logistical network. And the first number is the current distance from our assets that is providing this range. This number is for extension points and so the points is provided by supply base, but we'll talk about it later. So let's check once again our assets. We can see that transport hub providing us 50 track action points. So it means that for each hex over the road, we pay some action points. Our tracks are paying action points to move forward. How much they are paying? Well, if we hover here, we can see in the road column on the bottom, 4 row from the bottom is called track logistics. And we can see that the cost for track logistic on a road is 10 action points. It means that for each hex, our transport hub is paying 10 action points. We have 50. So for here, we can count 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. This is the range of our tracks where we can have full capacity of our logistical network. And next hex will cross our optimal range. It can still deliver some logistical points, but the amount of points will decrease for each hex that is exceeding the optimal range. It doesn't mean that we lost any resources, because to deliver those 12 food, we need only 12 logistical points, not 140. So as long if we can deliver here 12 logistical points, the gray number below if would be 12, still we would deliver all required supplies. But in a situation when we have bigger army, then usually we have much higher demand on logistical points, and then this can be problematic. So what we can do in a situation like here, we can build here supply base. Can go to orders bar and create construct. Go to logistics and we can build supply base. So it means that this base will allow us to have additional 50 action points from the hex where we have this base. So let's build it.
Yes, sir.
and next turn we should have the base ready. You can see that we have the supply base ready, and now something changed because we see there is a higher number of logistical points here and here is lower number. Why? Because the supply base to be operational require created 100 pull points because of the industry needs, so the red bar. And why 100? If we check in the supply base log, we can see that this asset needed 100 logistical points. So now the game is trying to distribute more logistical points into this direction, because now we need 100 here and 12 here. The supply base was constructed, so it's still not working. We directed more logistical points to enable it, but the effects of this base will be available in the next turn after the construction has been finished. Here we are after a few turns of gameplay. I moved front a little bit to extend the length of the road, and we have the supply base ready. It's fully operational and providing us 50 logistical extension points. What does it mean? You should also notice that the amount of points increased because I have here more units. So the pull points to support supply for all of them is now 240. So for most of the 400 logistical points is redirected to this direction because we need more logistical points. But let's check here that the number is not decreasing. You can see that we have from start to end the same number of logistical points available thanks to the extension points, because we already used 50 from 50 points available, but then we are consuming our extension points instead of crossing this maximum number. So we have no penalty because of that. So you can see that here in the last hex, where we have pull points to deliver, we used 50 extension points and 50 action points. So this is the last hex where we have full amount of logistical points. In the next hex, you can see that we send less track points, because now here we can see another 10 action points will cross the maximum number allowed, because we already used all extension points. So you can say that, can we build here another supply base to extend this range? No, we cannot, because extension points are not cumulative, so we cannot have here 100 extension points. So we can have only one supply base, and here another one will not change anything. But what we can do is we can always try to increase the level of the supply base. Now we receive 75 extension points. So instead of adding new supply base on the path, we should upgrade existing one, which will increase the range, extended range of our network. But still, as you notice, we are using the private variant of logistical transport hub. We can click on it and we can nationalize it. What does it mean? It means that this asset will change from private to public. Let's do it. So now it's white. It still have 400 track points and 50 action points, but if I click next turn, okay, we are in next turn, you can see that now we have here track station asset, and it doubled the amount of logistical points and action points. So now this asset have a range of 100 action points and 2 times more track points, so you can deliver 2 times more resources somewhere. In this case, we don't need here the supply base because our range is now, if we pay 10 per hex, it's 10 hexes. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So exactly the same size that we had before thanks to our supply base. Now we can remove this supply base by disbanding and receiving some metal from it. And next turn it will disappear, but we should see that even without that base, we will be able to keep full capacity of our logistical network thanks to the better asset. Let's play next turn. Okay, so now we have track station public and the supply base is deleted, and we can see that the full amount of logistical points can go 10 hexes from the track station. Only the last hex, the 11, have some losses of the amount of logistical points, but this way we can increase our range and our capacity. Also, if we will upgrade the track station to version 2, we will have 2400 track points and range 105. So instead of 100, we have 5 points more, and instead of 800, we have much more bigger capacity. So upgrading track stations not increasing a lot the range, but really increasing the amount of resources that we can deliver somewhere. So track station level 2 is must-have in bigger zones, and usually it's solving all bottleneck problems early game. Now, of course, I could build here on the, not here, on the last hex of my new extended path. I could build here a new supply base to extend from 10 to 15 the path that I can deliver resources. Okay, I have loaded previous save of this game. You know how to use initial points layer and how to use logistical points and action points. And here, if you click the second button, we can see used logistical points. So we have two kind of lines. Solid line is representing regular logistics, and dotted line is representing operational logistics. We can imagine operational logistic of unit as a kind of internal supply track station, same as our transport hub has 50 action points to be able to send trucks to a different hex. Same, our unit has 50 action points to send their own trucks to pick up supply from other hex with logistical points, and additional 50 points with limited supply. So for example, this unit has spent 100 action points to get to this hex with logistical points because it's 10 hexes away. So it will receive very small amount of supply. In this case, they received 7 food, but nothing more. So this unit could also receive 1 fuel because it's a bit closer to the hex. It's on the blue zone. To make operational logistics easier, game offers us a map layer which is called Show Operational Logistics. And now we can see exactly from which hex our unit can get full supply and from which hex it can get limited supply. But this unit is somewhere on the south in the snow, and this unit is receiving only limited supply because it's on the yellow area. So probably, yeah, we didn't receive fuel. And this unit is fully supplied because it's on the green area. This is on yellow, so it's not fully supplied. So it's a very convenient switch, and many people have it always turned on. So up to you. But look here. Here we can see that we are in a range of the transport hub, but this transport hub cannot give us any logistical points because it's disconnected from SHQ. So what we can do in that case? Well, what we can do is we can call governor of the zone and give him new orders. If you scroll down, there is section zone unit supply, and we can change this option from never supply units to allow supplying units if there are some shortfall. And what it does, if I confirm this order, now this zone will use their own internal stock to deliver supplies for the units inside that zone. So even if we are disconnected from SHQ, this zone can supply those units with what they have. They don't have ammunition, but they have food and fuel. So let's check our next turn. What will happen with that unit, which, as we can check, is starving. They don't have anything to eat. You see, they have empty stock of food and they never received what they requested. So the soldiers don't have anything to eat. If this number will go to 300, they will start dying. Now let's play the turn. Okay, we are in our next turn, and you can see that now those units can send their own operational logistic to pick up some resources from here because we have 400 logistical points available. But those logistical points only can provide us what is inside this zone. So we have higher consumption of food, less is left in the stock, but our units can eat. And if we click on our unit, we can see that, okay, they are hungry, but they are not starving. In case if you allow to use zone stock for your unit supply, and there is not enough items in the stock of the zone, there is one way how we can provide new food or fuel here. If you go to trade, please notice that here you can change who is trading. And if I click that zone is trading, then our zone will be able to buy, for example, 40 fuel. Let's do it.
Yes, sir.
And this way you can see that we have more fuel for use for our units. So this is very convenient function. And then, for example, we can buy some food, 109 food, buy,
Yes, sir.
and you can see now we have 260. So our units will be using this food from the stock of the zone to supply their units. Now let's disable those options and try to build a connection with SHQ. Okay, we are in the next turn. We build a connection from our zone to the zone where our soldiers were starving. By the way, I see that they found a nice artifact here. It's a rare artifact. You can watch my video about artifacts. Logistical points can be used also to move units for long distances. For example, normally this militia unit can move only here, but if I switch the move to the strategic move, then you can see that we can move only over the road, but we can move nearly everywhere. The only thing that is limiting us is the amount of current logistical points available on this road. So how to check the current logistical points available? For this, we have special option in map layers called current points. If we click it, we see this green line with numbers. And the numbers are representing the amount of current logistical points. There's a difference between the initial points and the used points. So if we subtract those two numbers, we will have current points. What we can do with them? As I said, we can move strategically, and then the weight of our unit will be subtracted from the current points, and it will decrease the number on the hexes where I move. So for example, if I move this unit from here to here, you can see this is 203. I move the unit. Now we have 141 because the size of the unit will decreased the available points on that road. What else we can do with current points? With current points, we can raise new formations. Like for example, here I have 158 points. I can go to rise formation, independent, not regiment, but battalion, and let's say machine guns. So I need 125 logistical points, but in this hex I have 152 currently available. So this is the green number that we saw. Rise formation. You can see that now this amount has been decreased. So if we hide units, you can see that only 33 points are left for the usage. The last what we can do with our current logistical points is to upgrade unit. So if we click on this unit, we could upgrade it to the new version, and then also that activity would consume some resources. Current logistical points are also a good indicator of how good our logistical network is. So if here we don't see green line, it means that we don't have any available points on this part of our road. And the more bold and wide this line is, the more points we have. So here we can see easily, even visually, that we have a lot of points available. But here you have nearly nothing. And it might be a sign that there is a bottleneck. And to check if we have any bottlenecks, there is another map layer called bottlenecks. The color is linked to the percentage that we can see on the bottom of each hex. And this percentage means how many current points are available from the initial points on this hex. So in case of the red line, 18% from the initial 213 is exactly 38. So this way we can visually see where are problems on our network and which part of the network is working fine. So the green line means everything is okay. Blue line means that we have less than 50% of initial points available. Yellow means that we have more than 50%. And red means that we have less than 30% of points available. In case of black line, nothing can be sent there. So then we have a big problem to fix. In this mode, we also can see operational logistic of our units represented by dotted lines, which is increasing usage points on those two hexes because the three units have pickup points for their supplies here and here. That's why also we have a different color because of the increased usage of logistical points by our units. If there will be no units on the north, then this line will be blue or maybe even yellow. Here you can see we have a change in our colors on the road because I have moved the units to the west. So now instead of red here we have blue and here we have yellow because the units are not increasing usage points here, but they are requesting their supplies from this hex and from this hex. So our military units can cause bottlenecks on our logistical network. To solve that, we need to increase capacity of the road by increasing the amount of logistical points. And to solve this black line here, we cannot do this by increasing capacity, but only by increasing the range of our track station, because here we are, if we go to traffic signs, we can see that we already used 90 from 50 action points. We have no extension points. So this is the last hex where we could send something. We can see that if we change the logs per source hex and we select the first track station in our capital, we only receiving tracks from this side, but we are sending nothing northwest. And this track station is from this city. So we can see that we are receiving tracks and sending them without any problem. Sometimes, instead of increasing action points by upgrading track stations, we can use something different to extend the range of our logistics. We can build different kind of road, sealed road. So if we click construct road and we have sealed road in our tech tree, which is here, you can see this technology. It's part of Economic Council discovery. And if you research this kind of roads, then you will be able to see here a new variant of roads, which is much more expensive. But if we build this road, for example, up to here, you can see it's much more advanced. And if we click now on this hex, you can see that the track logistic on the road cost 7 action points to move one hex. And on dirt road, it costs 10 action points. So on this road, we can move a much longer distance. Usually not 10 hexes, but about 14 hexes. Because if we divide, for example, 100 action points by 7, we have 14. And if we divide by 10, we receive 10 hexes. So also improving the road can give us a better range of our logistical network. Okay, we are 3 turns in the future. I have built more roads and more track stations to show you something called refocus. This is very important game mechanic that will allow you to reach long distances for units that are far away. Sometimes it's too expensive to build rails and you need to use tracks. So here we have two units that need some supplies. In this case, this unit needs replacements and food, and this unit needs fuel and food, and also small amount of replacements. But as we know from the video about militia, the replacements for militia are working in a different way. So how to deliver replacements and supplies to the units that are somewhere deep into the snow on south part of our zone. Those units, if we switch to used points, cannot pick resources and supplies from this road because here we have a lot of snow. And if we check what's the cost of organic supply on snow is 20 action points. So it's too costly to get 100% of supplies from this hex. That's why the units are getting supplies from the hex where they can find logistical points. To be able to send here to this hex replacements for that unit, it's 200 machine guns. We need to check weight of one machine gun subunit. It's 25. So two machine guns will have weight of 50, which means that our logistical network need to provide 50 logistical points to be able to send 200 machine guns from SHQ using our road to this hex where they can pick up using operational logistic. We need to send not only 50 logistical points, but also the 9 that they are requesting for the additional supplies, so 59. How to predict if our logistical network will be able to guarantee here about 60 logistical points? For that, we have preview points layer in our map. And in this mode, you can see all assets that can produce logistical points. And we can filter for each specific asset. But if I change zone, I see assets only in that zone. So here I have 3 assets that can produce because we have 3 stations. And here I have 1 track station, so I see only 1 option here. If you click this option, maybe before we click it, the number you can see here is the amount of logistical points that will be on this road next turn. So now we have here 490 and next turn we have 350. So the distribution will change depending on the needs. So it's fluid. So let's check if our track station from this zone can reach this hex to provide enough logistical points, because this 106 can come from different track stations. So let's click here, click on this track station, and now we can see 2 numbers on our road. The bottom number is the sum of logistical points next turn in that hex, and the top number is the amount of logistical points in this hex next turn from this specific track station. So now you can easily filter logistical points from our selected track station and check how they are behaving in our logistical network. So you can see that 175 logistical points can be easily delivered to the second track station without any losses, because our action points, because we have 100 action points, so we can reach 10 hexes using the dirt road. And what is happening in this hex? In this hex, if we check carefully, we can see that we have here a loss of logistical points. And if we reach another track station, we have another loss. And here, another one. So only 5 points are reaching end of this route. So what is happening? If we click this hex using traffic signs to check what is going on, we can see that we have here 2 buttons. The first contains all logs and the second contains logs per source hex. So the same like here in the preview, we could filter per asset that is producing logistical points. Here we can also filter our logs per specific asset. But this is for start turn, so for the initial points. And we are in the preview mode, so we can check preview log, which will include the information for the next turn. So if you like to check current initial points in this turn, use this option, and this option if you are talking about future, about next turn. So in future, our track station from the capital will deliver all points without any losses, because we crossed the distance of 100 action points and the optimal range was 100, so no losses. But what is happening here? Tracks first refocus, and we lost 50% of the logistical points because we spent 100 action points from 100 available, and additionally we lose 25% of logistical points after this reduction, because this is first refocus. So each refocus will lose additional 25%. So it's easy to count that maximum 3 refocus will be possible. And what is happening with the refocus? Refocus means that our tracks are reaching this track station, they unloading all resources here. So as long as you can deliver this 60 resources for those units here, it's fine, because the resources will be delivered to this zone, and new tracks from this second track station will load the resources and will transfer them down the road. So it's not like tracks from the first track station contain the 50 logistical points, because here we would have only 5. But it's not working this way. We have refocus, and each track station care about their own zone of responsibility in their range. So if we delivered here 50 supplies for those units, this track station will use their own tracks to send the 50 supplies to this track station. And this track station will also pick up the supplies delivered from here. They will use their own tracks and will send them here. And this track station also will have 50 resources delivered all the way up to here and use their own tracks to send it here. But you can see that those tracks are not completely stopping here, but 66 is still going here. It's because the game, after the refocus, can still use some amount of tracks that come from the original track station. You can see it here, that we can still see tracks from our capital, and they have completely refreshed range, because it's like they refueled and they still continue their journey. But most of the tracks were sent back in the way that they are not transferring from here to here in this direction, but they simply can be reused by this zone next turn. So let's check another track stations, how it looks like. We have here a second refocus. We lose only 25% because the action point spent is only half of the optimal range. And if that would be 200, then we will lose everything. If we spend 100 from 100, we lose 50%, and we spend half from the optimal range, we lose 25. And additional 50% this time, because this is second refocus, so we lose more, we lose 50%. But still some logistical points can be sent down the road. And in here, as expected, we have third refocus. We spent only half of the range, so 25 decrease, but 75 decrease additionally, because this is third refocus. The fourth one would be impossible. So only 3 logistical points could be sent here. As I said, we shouldn't care if there is a big loss. We should only care if all supplies can reach each part of the journey, in this case each track station. And if we go to the used mode and go to the next turn, we will see if the units could receive any supplies. And one point regarding track stations, if you go to the assets, you should notice that public assets need fuel to be 100% operational. In this case, our production is only 20%. It means that we received not enough fuel for the production because we could pay only for 20% of the production costs. So that's why please notice that also our track points, so our capacity and our action points were reduced to 20%. So instead of 100, this track station can provide 20 action points because we cannot deliver fuel. So this is very important to understand. Same if you would have no workers here, it will be the same. But here I have still the private asset, and please notice that private asset do not consume any resources, so it's quite cheap to use, but it's less effective. But sometimes it can be useful, because also notice that we don't need to pay any logistical points. So this private asset does not consume any logistical points. And normally our track station need 100 logistical points because it's a public asset. It means that in this hex, we need to guarantee minimum 100 logistical points to be able to fully support this asset. I have loaded next turn. Let's check if our units receive replacements. We can switch to the used points map layer, and we can see that this line representing how many used points, so the points consumed by our units, were available on this line. So we can see 59 points. So exactly the number that we were requesting. This unit, if we go to the supply, received 200 machine guns, which the weight of them was 25 multiplied by 2, so 50. And additional supplies. So yeah, it worked. The other point regarding track stations is that, for example, here we could replace this track station with a supply base because it's if you enable hexes, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hexes away from this asset. So we could simply have here supply base because the range of this asset is 50 action points, and if here we would have supply base, it will extend it by another 5 hexes, so we could simply delete this track station and replace it by supply base. So in general, to build a very long logistic channel, you should build track stations, then supply base, then track station, then supply base, then track station and supply base, and so on. And this way you can create a quite large and long logistical network. And now some more advanced topic. How you can know if everything is good or bad with your logistical network. There is one place where you can go and check how your whole logistical network is working. Because if we know that everything starts from the SHQ and is distributed across our logistical network to units, then the SHQ also should know how well it's working. So if you have SHQ unit selected, you can go here to the supply received button, and this interesting screen is telling us from the high perspective how well the whole logistic is working for this specific SHQ. We may have more than one SHQs, so each one would have this screen. But for normal maps, small maps, it's one SHQ is enough. So maybe at first it's quite scary, but in reality it's very simple. In this screen we can see two sections. The first one is about how much resources we could send compared to how much was requested. And if everything is good, we have green bar. If something is bad, we have red or even black bar. So the more the bar is filled to 100%, the colors are reflecting the amount of percentage this bar is filled. And the second section is about logistical points usage. So how many logistical points we had assigned for a specific activity of our logistical network and how many logistical points were used. So when you are looking at the screen, you should first check when you see color other than green. So in this case, we can see that our SHQ is not able to send to our zone what it was requested. So the zone requested 37 resources. But how I can know what the zone was requesting? Well, if we click on the other zone, because I have only two zones, so only this zone could request anything, and we go to items, we can see here as red color in the background. And if we can check this column, it means that what has been sent from SHQ to this zone. And here we see that 5 fuel was sent, but we requested 37. And if we go back to our SHQ, we see that, yeah, this is 37 of resources. In this case, it was fuel were requested and 5 was delivered. But why we couldn't deliver this amount of fuel? Because there are two options. We have problem with logistical networks. So here we can check if we have problem with logistical network. We don't have, because the problem will be when this bar will be not dark gray, but gray. So the more the bar is filled with this gray rectangle, the more we use our logistical points assigned for this activity. In this case, from SHQ to zone, we have reserved 331 logistical points, but 0 was used. So there is no problem with our logistical network here. It's a problem with the amount of fuel we had last turn. So you can see that we sent to zones 5, and because we only had 5 in last turn, so it's called a shortage of resources. There are two possible issues. One is you don't have resources to send, and it can cause here red or other colors. But other one can be we have overloaded our logistical network, and then we will see here full bar for specific logistical activity. Okay, so in the second row, we can see that SHQ could send mainly everything for our units. You can see that only 6 points were not delivered, so it's quite good. Our zones could send back everything to our SHQ. We can see it also in the out column that they are sending food, ammunition, recruits even. Water, fuel and industrial points are not counted and they not go through the logistical network. They need to have only a connection. So if you have a road connection, the game assumes that the liquids are using pipes system that is part of the road infrastructure, and we do not pay logistical points for transferring those. But food, ammunition, and metal or other resources have their weight, and we need to provide logistical capacity. Okay, so let's go back here. So our zone could send mostly everything to the SHQ, which is good. And we used nearly all points assigned for that activity. SHQ sending supply to units consumed only 67 of our logistics. So everything is visible from this small screen. And one information that it might be interesting how to interpret those numbers, because if you go to the SHQ administration here, you can see form where we can change distribution of logistical points across different logistical activities. So if, for example, here we would see that we have problem with sending from zone to SHQ, we could increase the percentage from 30 to 40 of overall logistical points assigned for this activity. But you need to notice that it does not sum to 100%. So we can do, if I will set it like that, it will mean that I decided to spend all logistical points of this zone to sending from SHQ to other zones, and it could still work because the game works like that. If there is no used points, they are used in the next section. If there is no used points here, the game will use them in the next section. So even if I would assign here, let's say 1000 points, and here will be 0, 0, 0, still the sections below will receive logistical points because the game goes from the top to bottom and then go back from the bottom to top. I know it's complicated, but you need to understand that this is only some number that we assign, but we can cross this number. So for example, here I can have assigned 165, but the real number can be even 300 here if above there were some free unused points, because in this first row we used 0. So this 333 now is adding to here. So we will have 662 points available. And if I used here only 67, here I would have all the unused points above, so about 600 plus this assigned for this activity. So about around 700 action points will be available here. So if I used 138, so most of the assigned, still the 600 from above will go here. So even if I have assigned 0 for replacements, the game will use all the remaining points that are unused from above below. So you can treat it like this dark gray number is increasing the capacity of the elements below. I know it's complicated, but some people recommend to simply do not touch this. And yeah, do not touch this, but in some cases it's good to simply try to play with it, and you can always try to fix this. Shadow Empire is a game where you need to try and learn by experience. So if you will destroy your economy, and then, well, you can load previous save and try to learn how to use it. So here, don't be scared that the percentage is above 100. So we have, for example, here 40, 40 is 80, and we have 110. So why we have here 30%? It will be 130, and with this will be 160, because it's going from the top to bottom, and then it's go back from bottom to top. If the game go from top to bottom, in first iteration, it cannot cross this maximum number. So in the first iteration, I could assign here only 331. But if the loop of the game will go back from bottom to top, then it can increase this number above this max value. So this value is mainly to preserve some amount for this section, but the points are really fluid. So going from top to bottom, and then from bottom to top. If you understand that, you are good. The last topic we'll talk about is a train system and rails. Here I loaded my other save because it was longer game, and you can see that we have much more zones, and there is a quite big distance between my SHQ and my front, which is the fight is going on here with a major regime, and we need a lot of resources here to be sent from the SHQ, which is here on the north. So how to do this effectively? Well, we can have sealed roads that are going to this zone, and here we have track station, of course, in level 2, not level 1, to have better capacity, but still rail system is much more effective, because if we build a rail station, we can see that it's providing 6,000 of rail points. So in this case, we are talking about logistical points of type rail. So the logistical points that are transferred using rails, they are still same logistical points like in tracks. This is important. And the range is maybe not too high, you can say, but if you click on the rail, you can see that the cost of transport through the rail logistic is 4 action points. So it's the lowest cost in the game. So you can imagine that with 105, we can easily reach 26 hexes without any penalty to the logistics. So it's very, very good way of transferring logistical points for a long distance. And what I recommend? I recommend to build train station level 2 in your SHQ, then build rails to the other towns, but here you don't need to have train station or railhead. The rail network is going, here is a branch, it's going here. Here I have a smaller train station, so it means that the logistical points are same as for track stations. In train stations, the logistical points are unloaded from the trains to this hex, and then they are loaded to the trains from this train station, which is visible because there is also rail refocus. So we can see that because of the distance compared to the optimal range, we lost 69% of logistical points and 25 because this is first rail refocus. But that's not a problem. That's not a problem as long as the amount of points that reach this hex is higher than the resources that we want to transfer. And then they are sending down the road trains to this hex. And in this hex we have Railhead. Railhead is a special asset that can end your logistical network. So without this Railhead, I will have only 10% of capacity on my rails. But if you end your rails network with Railhead or train station, then you have full capacity across any connected points. So that's why, for example, here, this town, don't have a train station, they don't have a railhead, but this town still is on the path of my rail network, so it still can use the logistical points, and they can be delivered also here. So let's check in the map preview. You can see that I can select also rail to filter out only my rail system. Now you can see 6,000 points is transferred here, and still they are going south, but the points are available on all hexes that have rails. So anything on that hex can benefit from those logistical points. Here we see some decrease because we are reaching our optimal range, but not a problem because still 3000 points could reach this hex. So this is the amount that is telling me how much resources I can transfer to this hex. And then I can switch to the other rail from this hex. You can see it's smaller, 2000. It can be pushed forward from the amount that was delivered to this hex. And we end up here with 1000, nearly 2000 of logistical points. And now it's also important to understand that the trains stop here. They load out our resources to this hex. And then what does it mean? It means that in this hex we have resources. And then the track station that I constructed here will be able to pick up those resources because the type of logistical points like rail points or track points are only valid if you send them over road or rails. But in the destination hex, when we have train station or track station, they are converted into, I would say, virtual resources. And then the track station can pick up everything that our rail delivered to this hex. Well, maybe not everything, but as much as the capacity will let us. And then this over the road, the tracks will be able to deliver the supplies to the front line. So the Railhead is a good way of stopping your rail network and then to load supplies to a different kind of transportation. Also, please notice that you can use airbase. So if I would use my transport fleet and create air bridge using this option on between this hex and other hex in a range of my transport airplanes, I could use the same resources delivered by trains to transfer over air to other hex. So yeah, this is the most important, I would say, aspect to understand that logistical points are an abstraction that allows you to transfer some resources between hexes. But in the hexes where we stop the road using airbase, railhead, track station, or train station, the resources can be converted and loaded using different kind of logistical network and different type of transportation. So this is, I would say, for me, this is the most hidden knowledge I have learned from this game. And the last point about constructing rails is that it's quite costly, and if you build your rails across the existing road, you will pay less. So for example, the cost is normally 30 infrastructure, 30 metal for a hex. But here you can see that I pay 21 industrial points and 32 metal. So the cost is reduced because of the existing road. Normally I would pay the same amount of industrial points. So the metal stay the same, but the industrial points are lowered by half. But also the cost depends on the terrain. So for example, why I didn't want to build my rails here, because building over plains rocky is cheaper than building over sand dunes. For example, here cost of the rail construction is 20, and here cost of rail construction is 12. So that's why I chosen the cheaper path, and here I only had to pay for those 2 hexes over sand. And here I could also benefit from the existing road up to here. And it's same with sealed road. If you build the road on top of existing dirt road, you will pay less. So normally I pay 50, but you can see that here I paid 36. So it's cheaper, but here I would pay 60. The last point we should discuss are traffic signs. If you go to the preview points mode in our map and then below in the map orders you select traffic signs, or you press the T on the keyboard, or you select it from the by using the right mouse button, you can inspect any hex and check the distribution of logistical points across this road. So in any direction that we have a road, you will see some buttons. So here we don't see any buttons because there is no road here on north. But for example, on the south we have some asset, and this is asset producing food, and we don't need to redirect there 140 logistical points. We need only 50. So we can, for example, block everything that is going to the south, but except pull points. So that now track logistics and rail logistics on the south will be blocked, but pull points will pass. This way, you will see a bar representing that we blocked something here. And now you can see 50 points are assigned here, so more points can be distributed across this road. Same here, this road, there is no sense to lose 180 logistical points into that direction because this is another minor regime. We can block this specific road and block all logistical points going there. This way, now we don't send here anything, we don't waste our points, but we can send more points through this road. Also, we don't need to send for north, so we are blocking all. Important aspect is that we can, if I deselect one of those, it will apply for all markers in this hex. So I cannot block only rails here, track points here, and pull points here, but this option affecting all hex and all blockades that you did here. So this is very convenient way how you can redirect the logistical points to the places where you really need them, and to avoid sending them in the directions where they are useless. For example, this town should not send anything for north direction because we built this town as a hub for the rail network, and we want to send more to the south direction or west direction when we have our armies, and no reason to send anything north from this station. Also, if we are in the preview mode and we can select track stations, we can see how we affect particular logistics for any of the stations available. In this case, we can see that we decrease here the amount of logistical points for that particular station, and it's a convenient way of checking and optimizing our logistics.